Oh, there's a kitty outside. Oh, he's so cool. Hey guys, my name's Gloria and welcome back to my channel where I read all kinds of books but mainly review horror. So today I have 4 recent horror reads that I was given to review for my blog. At the end of the video I will also be going into a little bit of why I haven't uploaded in a while. It's been 2 weeks since my last video, which surprised me. I didn't even think it had been that long, but normally I'm a multiple videos a week type of person, so if you're at all interested in that you can stick around to the end of the video. But I have 4 great books to review for you today. So the first one is an Irish book. I think it came out last week or the week before, and it is called Preserved by Fiona Sherlock, and the author of this is actually a murder mystery game maker, and her games have sold all over the world, but now she is writing some novels. So this is her first novel and it is a murder mystery thriller set in Ireland, and it tells a story of a small town in Ireland that discovered a body in a bog, and originally this body has all the markings of a typical bog body, which is a body that has been discovered in all different places in Europe where thousands of years ago someone was killed, a lot of times ritualistically as a sacrifice of some kind, and their body was preserved like an Egyptian mummy in a bog. And there are a lot of things about this body that seem to indicate it is one of those bodies, but when they find another body that doesn't have those kind of characteristics, they think they might have a much more recent killer in their midst. And the story is to be covered by journalist January Quayle, who is a very unique character. She's very quirky. She is very much a vintage person. She wears classic 50s corsets and sort of style and stuff. She drives a car that I don't even think it has seat belts. It's one of those vintage cars my dad used to have them. I hated them. And she only drinks creme de menthe, which isn't the usual drink you'd get in a pub in rural Ireland, but she manages to get it somehow. And she has covered bog bodies before. She has written stories about bog bodies found in different countries and in Ireland, and so she's asked to come in and write about these ones. But she has her own stuff going on. She is possibly about to lose her job because she's so vintage and so living in the past. She really shuns all technology, which unfortunately you can't really do as a journalist these days. She even writes out all of her notes for stories, and a poor intern has to type them up for her. She's got her own stuff going on. She has her own past issues, family issues to deal with, and she is swept up into this investigation on how these bodies got here, who killed them, when they were killed, and she soon finds herself in mortal danger. So Preserved was a great story. It was very interesting, very well written. The author Fiona Sherlock as well, she was a journalist herself, and you can see clearly in her writing that she knows what she's talking about when January Quayle is working with the guards, the Irish police, and working with different editors and supervisors, and all this stuff are going on. It seemed all very kosher, very, I believed that it was true. And also the rural Ireland parts, they were obviously very familiar to me. The one small gripe that I had with the entire book is that some of the names were very similar, which again is realistic. In rural Ireland people have weird ass nicknames. I've known people called Nasty, I've known people, my brother's called Cookie and Hopper as well. My mother had a family nickname, so she had a surname, but then also she was known as Teresa Tom because her surname was so prolific in the area. Each family with that name would be given a surname. It's very small town Irish thing, but there was a Mossy and a Flossie in this book, and I still have trouble differentiating them in my mind, and I did get them mixed up and I wasn't sure who I was supposed to be reading about there. But other than that very small thing, this is a great murder mystery. There's a lot of interesting talk. She dives deep into bog bodies and into the sort of stuff that you would find on a bog body. It talks about the whole reason that the second body was found was because the bog had a second cutting to it, which normally wouldn't happen because it wouldn't be warm enough, the summer wouldn't be long enough to do that, but because of global warming that was possible. And it also talks about the issues today in journalism and trying to downsize everything and trying to get as many headlines out as possible, as quickly as possible, possibly without even the correct information and sources and stuff. So it's already interesting, really modern, but still bringing in a really sort of vintage classic murder mystery kind of feel to it, with January Quill and her odd little vintage quirks as well. So I would highly recommend that if you're looking for a murder mystery in the near future. The next book I have is Corpsed by Kaylee Marie Edwards, and this is a short story collection. If you weren't aware, I only learned this because I saw a snippet of Cate Blanchett talking about it on some random interview. Corpsed is a word that refers to when actors are on stage and they can't control their laughter and they're sort of ruining scenes because they're laughing so much. That is called corpsing. I don't know why it's called corpsing. Seems sort of backwards because you'd think corpses wouldn't be moving or laughing, but hey, there you go. So there is a lot of, I think the name and the title of the book is very interesting because there is a lot of darkness, a lot of gruesome stuff in there, but there's also quite a lot of humor in it as well. So, and I really enjoyed it. So there are 8 short stories in this, and I can honestly say that I enjoyed all of them. The writing, Edward's writing, is fantastic. It's really immersive. She creates great characters, she creates great settings and little universes for them. I really enjoyed it. Impeccable writing. The stories range from a little girl being drawn to a lake by a siren. We also have some zombie stuff going on in an asylum. We have a builder trying to poison someone with magic mushrooms, but that unfortunately goes wrong. And we also have some carnivorous Christmas trees. So there's a whole range of different monsters and evils and weirdness going on in this book. As I said, a lot of them do contain humor. There's a lot of funny stuff going on here. I think my favourites would be, surprisingly, there is a story, which one is it? There's a story called Skin, which is about a girl who is bitten by a spider and she has some sort of strange reaction to it. Not unlike Spider-Man. I've been rewatching all the Tobey Maguire movies recently. Quality meme content in all of those movies. But it's a story of a young girl being bitten by a spider and strange things happen to her. I cannot stand spiders, can't be anywhere near them, but this story was really good. It's a transformation story, it really takes the theme of painful adolescent growing up, growing pains, and really puts a new spin on them, and I thought that was really interesting. There's also a story, quite a short story, called S-Day, and it sort of reminded me a little bit of, I have a copy of, a really old copy of Don't Forget Your Tile, 42, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the writing in it reminded me a little bit of that style. Can't remember the author's name right now, it's not a good day for remembering things, but it was really funny. It's about a particular day in human history that happened globally because a child was being a little sod, and that's why it's called S Day. So I thought that was really funny. The whole collection works really well together, and I would highly recommend if you're looking for a few great short stories that you can sink your teeth into. I would definitely recommend Corpse by Kaylee Marie Edwards. The third book for today is a book that is actually out today as you're watching this video, and it is called Shelter for the Damned by Mike Thorne. I love the cover of this book, first of all. I've read some of Mike Thorne's stuff before, some of his short stories, and I really enjoy his writing. So this story is about three teenage boys who are just out wandering about the neighborhood, and they find a shack that has just appeared. They've never seen it there before. There doesn't appear to be anyone inside it, but they're still a little bit wary of it because they know that homeless people and random people could just be in there, but they are somewhat drawn to it, and one of them in particular is very drawn to this. He just feels that there's something important about this shack. The other two boys don't really want to go in there, but he pulls them in anyway, and there is something weird about the shack, something not right, and the other two boys seem to sense it, but he doesn't really get it. The three boys are good friends. They're friends through simply just being in the same classes at school, being the same age, but they also have a bond due to all three of them having somewhat abusive fathers. One of them, his father is obsessed with chores and having a completely spotless house, so he's constantly not being able to hang out because he has to help his dad with chores, and their house is like a show house pretty much. Another boy has an alcoholic father who is quick to anger and is, not explicitly, but it is hinted that he's saying a lot of weird things and bringing things up in conversation that are weirdly sexually inappropriate for speaking to his teenage son and his teenage son's friends. Very not good stuff going on there. But our main protagonist, his father's vice is violence, and unsurprisingly his son is also violent. He's constantly getting in trouble at school because he's fighting, he's beating people up, and his father is on the verge of beating him himself. The only thing stopping him from getting hit by his father is that his mother is around, and his father doesn't seem to see the hypocrisy or the connection between his own violent anger and his son's, and he's just a complete hypocrite. But these boys are bonded by the issues that they have with their fathers, and our main protagonist, he starts to become obsessed with this shack. He is taken out of school because he's fighting so much, repeatedly pisses off his parents by leaving their house to be at the shack. He feels like it's the only place where he feels normal, where he feels safe, or just not on the verge of losing it, and he just becomes obsessed with the place. Eventually he drags his other friends back there with him, and things go very wrong, and he soon learns that you can take the boy out of the shack, but you cannot take the shack out of the boy. So this is a short story. It's under 200 pages. It's a short book. It is sort of a coming of age story, but not entirely. It's just sort of set around the sort of adolescent age and the real issues that young teenage boys have to deal with. There's girls, there's family, there's school, and there is this shack, this obsession, and it is a dire obsession, a fatal obsession for this boy who's just trying to escape from the horrible things that he has to deal with in his life, and even the good things. He can't seem to handle the good things that are happening either. It deals a lot with violence, with father-son relationships, toxic ones obviously, and the real lasting effects that they can have on children, on young boys. And it also deals a lot with toxic masculinity and these boys sort of struggling to find their own sense of masculinity when all they have to really look at is their own fathers, who have a very warped and very unhealthy view of their own masculinity. So it was really interesting. There are some drastic things that happen in it, and the obsession with the shack was a great way to sort of tell this boy's story and his sort of falling off the deep end, really. So if you're looking for a really great writer and a really interesting sort of coming of age story, you should definitely check out Shelter for the Damned by Mike Thorne, which is out today. And last but not least is a book that was sent to me by the author in physical form. Thank you very much for this. So this is Dark Hilarity by Joseph Sale. He reached out to me and asked me to review his first novel after he saw my review of an anthology called Burnt Fur that he was included in, and his story was the first in the anthology and had to do with a creepy weird duck thing going on, but it was actually my favourite in the anthology. Really great writing, really interesting story, and so I had to say yes to this. So this is a dark fantasy horror, definitely has horror elements in there. It tells the story of two young girls who are bonded by their obsession with a screamo band. It's set in the 90s, and they discover they both like this band and start up a friendship. On their first night hanging out together and having a sleepover, one of them has her period. And not long after this, she starts to see a wolf in her bedroom. It's sort of a hallucination. She can see it sitting in the corner of her room, and it is constantly watching her, and she begins to associate it with her friend. But they both convince one of their mothers to take them to a Valentine Killshot, that's the name of the band, to one of their concerts. And it's only at the concert that she sees the wolf outside of her room, and also her mother and her friend see it, and through a series of serendipitous events, it leads the actual band to come to her home, and it's like a teenage band obsessed girl's dream to have their favourite band coming to their house. But unfortunately, the lead singer of this band, called Cretin, bit of a red flag there to be honest, he has other ideas. So the band are set, they've sort of become famous for their concept albums on this alternate reality, this land called Destra, one of those, and it's a land filled with wolfmen. It's also filled with lizard people. There's all kinds of fantastic things happening in this land, and they've built numerous albums on it, and the girls are obsessed with it, and they know the lyrics inside out. But he has a secret, and the secret is that this world is real, and he has visited there, and he's basically just using the band to make money to fund the ayahuasca that it takes him to be transported there. But he has found a way to make it permanent, and he's found a way, something that he has to do for him to be able to live there permanently and not have to come back to our reality. And he uses the girls to do this, and it is a terrible event that happens to them. It ruins their childhoods, and it changes the course of their lives. But that's only the sort of beginning part of the book. So this is a dark fantasy with a lot of violence and horror in it. It does deal with our reality, and it does deal with this other land with these fantastic creatures and telepathy and rains that make you sorrowful, and a land that is presided over by an infamous laughing god. So Sale's writing is fantastic as always. His representation of teenage girls in their first awkward stumbling steps into a friendship was perfect. Being obsessed with a band, it could have been me in these pages, except I was a bit more mental, I'll be honest with you. I was more of a Paramore person myself. But his representation of them and their friendship is great. It really deals with grief, with difficult childhoods, and also really puts a point on platonic love as opposed to romantic love. I'm not a romantic love reader myself, but I think a lot more books should focus on platonic love and friendships and the power that friendships have. Because I find myself thinking of Sam and Frodo a lot in this, because it is sort of a fantasy and they have to journey through this world. I did think a lot about Sam and Frodo. I'm sure he was thinking about them too when he was writing it, but I find it really interesting. Really, it's got a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of sort of irony and comments on our own states of reality and our own states of life. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, something a little bit more dark fantasy oriented, you should definitely check out Joseph Sale's first novel, Dark Hilarity. So those are my 4 review books for today. Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. If you'd like to click off for the uninteresting parts, this is why I haven't uploaded in 2 weeks. So since the start of January actually, or just before December, I think I've just been getting a little burnt out. I did upload a few in January and a couple in February, but I just haven't been feeling it. I have not felt like setting up my area or writing out all my notes for reviewing books and stuff. I've still been reading, and my backlog of books to actually review is piling up, but I just haven't felt like it. Minorly, I have downloaded Fallout Shelter again on my phone, and I have 2 vaults going at the minute, but that's mainly just procrastination and just wasting time, so that I don't have time to film. But I think mainly I think the weight of the quarantine and the pandemic is really, I'm not going to say starting to take its toll, because I'm sure it has before, but I'm really starting to see it at the minute. Like, this is February, this is Women in Horror Month. Last year in February, I went to Wales for a writing retreat. It's also the month where there will be loads of burlesque and performance gigs and different stuff happening in my sort of circle of friends and stuff in Dublin. I would be taking, where is it? Here's the poster for last year. I'd be taking part in the MX Horror Final, hopefully, if I got in, but I was last year and the year before that, just performing alongside fantastic horror performers and seeing real gruesome acts and stuff, and just really enjoying being outside, being around people, which is something that I never would have thought I'd enjoyed before, but it did. And I haven't left my house in a year. I haven't been able to perform, I haven't been able to dance, I haven't used my creativity, and I don't have a lot of creativity when it comes to costume designs or anything like that. My bars are pretty low, but even that I'm not really using. which is just, it's been getting me down a little bit recently, and I think that's also been sort of bleeding into my video making as well, because I just haven't really been happy with a lot of the videos I've been uploading. When I started this channel, I was just throwing stuff up because I knew you have to get started in order to get better, and I just sort of assumed that I would automatically get better. I would get better at reviewing books, I would have more interesting stuff to do, more interesting videos to make, and that just hasn't been the case, which, you know, surprisingly you have to actually put effort into things. Why does that always surprise me? So I feel like my videos have been really, like, I feel like I've been really lazy with them, and it's the things like I uploaded one recently where it was only later that I realised half the entire video was completely out of focus, and I just didn't bother going back and filming it. I was like, ugh, good enough, and that's kind of been my motto a lot, and I just don't want to make crappy videos, but I don't have the mental capacity to make my videos better at the minute. But I really want to. I only realised as well recently that me starting this channel was so lucky. My first video was uploaded on the 1st of January 2020. Obviously had no idea that there was going to be a pandemic and I wouldn't be able to do those other things that I love doing, which meant that this channel and making these videos has sort of been my only creative outlet for the last year, and I'm really glad that I did make the channel. I feel so lucky that people have actually subscribed, and I have people who regularly watch my videos and regularly comment and engage with me on these videos. Thank you so much to everyone who does that. I notice every time I see the same name in comments. I really appreciate that. But I also feel like I'm kind of letting those people down because they took the time to subscribe and to watch my videos, and I'm just throwing up the same old crap, so I'm getting annoyed at myself. But that's kind of a good thing for me, because that's generally when I get angry enough at myself to change things. So luckily, our dance teacher, my burlesque dance teacher, has started live Zoom classes, so I'll be starting live dance classes next week to get back into that, to get back moving. I'm probably going to die because I'm so unfit, but we will try. And I've done a little bit of rehashing of my desk here and stuff. Let me know if you have any design tips. I don't know what to do with this whiteboard behind me, but I have a lot of authorship videos coming up because I have been doing some short story writing, and I will be published for the first time this year. It wasn't announced, but I was told that it was okay to say it, that my story was accepted into the HorrorTube anthology called Best Served Cold. It was supposed to be out in February, but they had to push it back to December for some reason, but that will be my first published story, and which is still weird to say, but I'm hoping to get more stories published this year as well. So I've been doing some short story writing. I'm going to be finishing up a novel to get that sent off as well, and I want to make a lot more writing videos, writing vlogs. I'm going to be reviewing the masterclass series that I have a subscription to and haven't been watching, and I also want to do a few Write With Me videos for, I have a lot of lists of story ideas that are probably never going to get written, so I've decided to just take those and do a couple of videos where I ask people to write with me, and I'm going to put up prompts for stories, and I'm going to write a story and I'll have it up on my blog as well. And hopefully some people who either want to get back into writing, who want to write more, or who just have some free time at the minute and just want to do something creative, you'll ride along with me. That would be so cool. So yes, that is, I've just been feeling very bleh about my videos recently, but I'm not freaking out. I'm going to change, I'm going to do better, and I'm going to feel better about my videos, hopefully. If anyone has any tips, any changes they would like to see in my videos, I think I've just been really lazy personally, but I'm going to try and put a bit more effort into them. So if you've gotten this far, well done, thank you so much. I really appreciate anyone who has subscribed recently. I think a few people have subscribed because of me being included in Mer's video of the anti-Valentine's sort of spooky story video. I'll link that down below, so thank you so much if you've subscribed because of that. I have reached my goal for this month. I still have a goal of 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and I don't intend to do that by making really crappy, out of focus, lazy videos. So I'm really going to up my game and make it worth it for people to subscribe. So thank you so much. You should check out those books that I talked about earlier in the video. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble as always, and I shall see you very soon in the next video, which will be my Women in Horror Month and Black History Month wrap up on the last day of February. So I'll see you then.